Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Apocalicious podcast. I'm your host, Jade, and I have my co-host here,
Scout.
Apologies if you like the previous host. They went MIA, missing in action, and so we have no idea what happened with that. But I mean, hey, such is life. Anyways, we're here bringing you another epic, fun, educational podcast episode centering around democracy in our world. And the topic of today's video is how can we recognize, appreciate, and better understand democratic values in our everyday lives. So, just as like a little like icebreaker, I'm just gonna go straight out the bat, answer it immediately. Just get involved with your community. But what does that really entail?
Getting involved with your community regarding democracy, and what does that mean? Is that what you're asking?
I mean,
or getting involved
like,
with democracy, or like better understanding democracy in your community, or in the entire, everything that surrounds you, because of course there's democracy in like your household, and then it broadens, in the classroom, and then in your local community, like county, and then in your state, and then in your country. And then, I guess you get to the point, if you're in a country with the United Nations or something, democracy kind of covers such a large field. So are you maybe trying to ask how we can understand those democratic values from all of the above?
as far as like me or you can go, at least like if it's just like one of us, like the most we can go is probably like at like a local or like even like state level and like get involved. Like either like by becoming like an assistant or like helping out like the county clerk with like election season, or even just like getting involved in your local community, like with local elections, even if it's for something like a school board like election, or like electing the sheriff or the mayor of your town, or even like for smaller things such as like basically it's like the secretary to the mayor.
Yeah.
If that's even like a position that's elected, but just stuff like that, because I find most people like are at a disconnect with it. Like, like you see like all over social media, like it's like all these people like posting about stuff that is just kind of like hopeless and there's nothing I can do about it. And sure, like there's nothing people like you can't just walk in like this, like the like state cap or like the federal capitol, like like any one of like the places in Washington DC where the Senate are meeting, or even like the White House, and you can't just tell them like, hey buddy, I don't like what you're doing, you gotta change it up immediately. Like,
I see what you
else?
mean. Yeah. I think it's also very important to kind of promote the idea that even if somebody does not necessarily want to go as far as, being involved at the local or state level, that they could still, recognize and appreciate just the values of democracy as a whole. You don't necessarily need to be doing something to appreciate what democracy has brought for you in your life, whether that be even regarding politics or not,
Right.
And that's kind of the stance I have on it. Democracy is not just, I never just think of democracy as like politics. Whenever I think of democracy, I think just broadly, voting the people,
Right.
And I think that the democratic values that are present in these more political places, such as like state, local elections, especially federal, those same values can be carried on just like everyday lives, honestly. Like, for example, like today, just like voting, even if you don't even think about it as voting with some roommates to decide where you want to eat, like that can be understanding those democratic values. You could still carry them on to help you understand the larger ideas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. That's also another thing that like the word democracy is like it's kind of just become like synonymous with like politics and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But it's more than that. It's literally like does isn't like the actual definition like a form of like or of government or something where like where it's like the people's choice. Like it's about the people's choice.
I
It
mean,
doesn't
according to Oxford Dictionary, the term democracy is a system of government by the whole population or all eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. So that is a very much, government surrounding definition. But there's also other like definitions that's like control of an organization or group by the majority of its members. And that is also
right.
democracy, you know? Democracy is also the practice or principles of social equality, you know? Democracy is not just one thing, you know? And I think that whenever thinking about our everyday lives, we usually will be more centered or pushed towards the definition just broadly control of an organization or group by the majority of its members. That's what I always think of when I think of democracy. And I think if we're trying to focus for the topic today of democracy or democratic values in our everyday lives, how can we understand the different, values of it? We need to step away from such a, you know, specific definition of democracy being like, okay, it is like, in this state and there's all these representatives, elected officials that are like deciding things and such. But we need to go more broad to democracy as a whole, not just looking at it through politics. Because everyday lives, I personally am not thinking about politics every day. Which I don't know if that's a controversial thing to say, but I am not, focusing and like thinking about politics every single day. I don't watch the news every day, I don't read the news, So whenever like my everyday democracy is something as simple like as I mentioned previously, deciding where I eat with some roommates, Very and those are the same values kind of too that are carried on in the more quote unquote serious political places.
Right. Like whenever like you're in like a have I guess like having an argument with your family about like where to eat.
Yeah.
Like like what's it called like for me and my family like I have two siblings, two parents, and so like let's say both of my siblings they both want to go eat at McDonald's. My dad doesn't like McDonald's, but he also wants a burger, and so like he says instead let's go to Freddy's, and then my mom's like I don't want that. I want Chili's instead.
Chili's, and everybody's like, oh, heck
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty much. And like we're just like, wait, I can get behind Chili's, and if we can all agree, then like I'll be happy
Yeah.
to go and whatever.
Yeah.
And then like
Even if one person still really wanted McDonald's, the democratic process says we're going to Chili's.
exactly, like, you can get a burger there, like you'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's a compromise. I feel
Yeah.
is a very important and just like present thing in or like value of democracy. And so if we're breaking down democracy and all its components, compromise is a big thing because to have a unanimous vote is kind of insane. Everybody agreeing that one thing is like, what they want, that's kind of, And so what democracy says is that as long as most people, the majority, are okay with it, then we could figure something out and compromise with the other people that may say against it. And looking the lens of politics, that compromise could be made by, adjusting the bills,
Right.
Yeah, making amendments and such to then make sure it's a majority and everybody is sort of happy.
Right. In a democracy, you're never gonna get everybody like being like the happiest they could have been. Like if I'm advocating for how do I put this? Like if I'm advocating for gas to be completely free, or
One
like
can dream.
if I want everybody to have like like free energy drinks, right? Because I'm of course like a really big caffeine addict, and like they're like the company producing those energy drinks, they're gonna like what are they like? They can't produce it and get anything in exchange for it, and so like we can like come to like an agreement that hey, I'll give you this in exchange, or like what's it? You give me energy drink in exchange, I give you something that's like inherently valuable, like
Mm.
equal in worth, or whatever.
Interesting. I like the example you use. I feel like it kind of goes beyond democracy as well. It kind of comes into kind of barter system
Right.
sense of.
Yeah, sort of like an economic system. It's just like again, you're not gonna have everybody that's happy, and so you're gonna have something like I don't know, like you have to have like certain agreements in order for everyone to like come to like a consensus or something, or like
Mm-hmm.
you have to make certain concessions in order to like I don't know, like make sure that everyone has like an equal voice and that like one doesn't like one voice doesn't just like rise up and like says, "Oh no, like I'm more right than y'all," you know? Um, I don't know. I kind of think that leads into like a social contract too, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Social
Um,
contract. Speak your truth.
yes. I don't know. I find the concept of a social contract interesting because it's like in order to participate in a society, you have to like make certain concessions that you're not going to get everything that you want, but you're going to like give up certain rights or certain like freedoms in exchange for like guaranteed rights, or at least like supposed guaranteed
Mm-hmm.
rights. And I kind of feel like that's kind of what a democracy is, but it's just balanced out by everybody's opinion. Like you're gonna get like the average opinion of the people
Mm.
in some way, like either through representatives or just like everyone like as a whole mass or something like that. But you're gonna get like the average of the people, and that's usually what's ideally gonna be like the best for everybody.
Yeah. I think that a very important thing regarding democracy, you mentioned, how there's a lot of people different and you're trying to find, like, the average of the masses.
Yeah.
It's very important to kind of, instead of thinking, oh, yes, one choice is like the overall good and the other is like the overall bad, evil choice,
Right.
it's important to kind of accept that it's more complicated than that there's a lot of diverse perspectives that us as like humans have to kind of embrace and understand that there's these two sides that we're trying to choose upon is not like just because one person you know wants one thing does not mean that it's the complete opposite as the other. Do you know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah.
In democracy, it's not just like one's 100% and the other is 0%. It's a very much mix of it all.
But I think everybody like generally like wants to or like wishes and advocates for what they think is the best world for everybody, for like the people that they care about, and hopefully everybody else. Like everybody wants to live like in a world that's like good, nice. We just all have different ideals of sharing that. Like
Mm.
um like if someone like wants like no for like little government oversight, blah 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 or whatever, like they're doing it because they want like the best world for them. And it's not like the best world for like me is like gonna be like the opposite for you or something, like
Mhm.
because we can like all come together and share these like ideas of like, oh yeah, um like what's it called, like like feed the homeless, like
Mhm.
make sure everyone has like some form of sustainable housing, like the job, like we don't want to like die when we go to work or whatever, like that we're at least like being paid well,
Yeah.
or just stuff like that. Like we can take those like commonalities of all of it and just kind of like use it to like form like the actual basis for our societies, instead of just like again like catering to like what's it called, just like one or two people.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that there's a lot of people in the world, especially in the United States, that are very down on like democracy and such. And our topic promotes how to understand the different like sections of democracy, like how it works, like
Right.
how can we understand and trust these systems that we have in place? Like, for example, accountability and transparency for those systems. Recently, about a week or so ago, we went to the election warehouse in
Right.
our county, and then we learned a lot about how they are like stay accountable for all of the votes and
Right.
how open and transparent they are regarding the voting systems. They have a little viewing room where you could watch them like count all the ballots and such. You know, of course, those aren't everyday things happening, but I think every day you could kind of understand that democracy regarding the systems we have placed in the United States have different layers of protection in
Right.
a sense, that they're not just like completely doing whatever, you know. Democracy is happening, you know.
Right.
And I find it very interesting, you know, whenever I think of democracy, I'm not so very worried about like, oh, like are the systems in place like working well, or is it even like, you know, are the people messing with the votes? You know, that's not, I'm not that type of person. But I had a conversation with somebody recently, somebody who never voted, you know, they're about the same age as us, maybe a couple years older. And
Mhm.
they just don't really have much of an interest in voting, not in the sense that they don't trust the systems, but rather that they believe that, you know, I don't know if this is getting off topic,
Mhm.
but that their vote doesn't count. And I think it's very interesting because we are not just a democracy. The United States is not just democracy. It is you know, democratic republic. No, is that?
Right.
Yeah. So we aren't just like, you know, 100% like everybody's vote like just go straight to, you know, the federal count, you know. There's things such as the electoral college, which this is very off topic. But I believe that a lot of people don't really understand different democratic processes such as that, and therefore they do not believe that true democracy is happening. I don't know if that's too off topic or
No, it's
anything. I don't know.
as long as it's like talking.
I know. I don't know.
It's like those types of people. Okay, I'm gonna be real. They kind of
Yeah.
they piss me off like in a way that's kind of just like I'm not actually like pissed off. It's just kind of like a little upsetting to see that like these people are convinced that like their vote doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
or like um but it's kind of like every vote does matter in a sense, but not in a way of like, oh yeah, like your one vote would change everything completely. But
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of um like for around the longest time, I forgot where this figure was. I think I talked about it last podcast episode or something, but like I think 50 or like even like 60% of the population of the United States, they don't vote.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the people that are able to vote, they don't vote. Like 60-50%, they don't vote.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they were to actually vote, they could have changed so many outcomes of so many different
Mm-hmm.
elections. And so like I guess it's just like a thing of like they don't see that about, or they don't see or realize that, because like if they themselves can't change the outcome single-handedly, then what's the point?
Yeah.
And it's also just like a thing of like I know like I'm not I guess I am more into politics than like the common person, but I mean like I'm not watching the news every day. I'm not like looking at Instagram, like scrolling through like taking like a like Donald Trump's like next fart, like I don't pay attention to that.
Yeah. No.
Like I kind of like either passively consume it, or like every now and again I'll be like, okay, like what's happened with the government, like what's going on now, you know, especially with like stuff like the war happening. Yay. um
I
but
don't
it's
know. I think I have a different perspective on that. I honestly, um, I participate in local local elections as an election clerk, and
fancy.
um, and I have voted in like each election I've been able to, but I'm not too, you know, I'm not the type of person to ever, you know, think that it's like that type of person would never like upset me. I don't think that I feel like there's a lot of people in the world that are so high strung about democracy that they're like, okay, yeah, you need to, you know, understand everything, But I mean, like, honestly, if somebody is like, I don't have the interest or time to become an informed voter, and so I won't
Right.
vote, I don't think that's too, I think that's pretty valid, honestly.
Right.
I'm not, I don't think that just because somebody votes means that they are not like, I don't know, like, I don't know. I feel like that there's more that you could do than actually like truly like take a stance and like participate like completely in democracy.
Right.
Like, this kind of brings us back to in the beginning when we were talking about not just participating in democracy, but just understanding the democracy and such, and appreciating what we have in the United States regarding democracy. We can also compare that to other nations and how their governments, former governments work, and whether that makes us, in any sense, envious of theirs or kind of more confident and proud of what we have. Personally, I am not the most democratic person. If I had to choose one form of government in, a society that I live in, like some, you know, alternate universe, it would not be democracy. Which is
Right.
interesting because I spent some time trying to understand democracy. I mean, I'm in this class, and I believe that there's a lot of good things about democracy and there's a lot of flaws.
Right.
Yes, and it's not the institutions that I believe have flaws of them. I believe that's the process of democracy itself. It's not the institutions that we have set up in the United States that make me a little on democracy, but it's rather how democracy works as a whole.
Right.
It's, there's the majority that wins. I would want to live in a society that was more, I know democracy is for the people, but even more for the people, not just going with the majority, but trying to make sure that everybody's like truly hard, and just because the majority thinks something should go one way doesn't mean that the other people need to be, I don't know, kind of just like swept up in it all, because, you know, that wasn't their choice. I think it'd be
Right.
very beneficial if, you know, I mean, of course, democracy tries to do this and such with trying to reach those people. But I mean, the damage is kind of already done because the majority voted against them. And I believe this could be related a lot. I don't know if this is getting off topic again.
No.
It could be related a lot to the people we have in federal government at the moment. And I believe with recent elections, a lot of people have been down on democracy because of that. They're like, I didn't vote for this. Why am I being harmed?
Right.
And I believe that's one of the biggest flaws with democracy because it's just a majority. It's not, of course, there's also like state and local things that could help maybe reach those people that have different opinions. Like, even though technically the entirety of the United States is under a more like red, uh, what's it called? Like administration.
Mhm.
doesn't mean that the states and local need to necessarily be under that as well. There's different things we vote on as well. But even so, I don't think that these states should have to go under this, like, thing that is not was the majority. I don't know. That's just kind of like my personal viewpoint of it all. And it's it's interesting because it's not necessarily that I don't know, like kind of also focusing on the current administration, accountability and transparency and democracy. I
Right.
feel like there's a lot of controversial things that have gone on in the past years that another reason why people like kind of down on democracy are like, hey, democracy means that, the democracy I see in the United States means that you're being transparent to me and like helping me understand how you're doing things, and you're also holding yourself accountable for the things that I voted for you for.
Right.
And I believe that of course there's scandals with almost every president and there's issues with everybody, but it's very important. I think it should be, of course, you can also get into how the administration doesn't care about his little guys,
Right.
which is also another controversial topic. But I don't believe that the federal government currently has truly proven these democratic values, and held themselves accountable and shown true transparency of what they are doing. For example, I know New Mexico voted first, according to MIT, regarding elections
Right.
because of how well we handle, like, taking accountability and, proving transparent to, the citizens of our state. But I feel like it would be so very beneficial if the United States could reach a point in their democracy that they could have that same accountability and transparency to the citizens of the United States.
Right.
I don't know if you have any. I've kind of been talking for a second.
I honestly like your critique of democracy. It's like on the point, like, because it's like the whole of like a democracy hinges on the fact that the people are always gonna, or not always, but they're like more often than not, they're gonna vote for like what's best for them. But the thing is, like, I don't want to turn into like a philosopher who's like, if you give a toddler a cookie and an apple, it will eat the cookie and become fat and die. Like, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
be that type of person. But it's like we don't vote for like, we vote for what we think is like gonna be the best for us, but that's not always the
Very
case.
selfish.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're
very
selfish
selfish.
too.
Yeah, which is very interesting. It's very interesting how democracy is in the United States. I feel like a lot of people, they vote based on what will help them, and this could get very controversial as well. Very quick.
Speak your truth. Speak your truth.
But regarding things such as free, like, benefits such as SNAP, food benefits, medical benefits. If, say, somebody, and I'm all wifed up, have my hubby, and we are fortunate enough to have enough money that we do not need any help regarding medical or food, then I'm not gonna try and vote for candidates that is trying to help them, which I believe a lot of people do vote because of that. They're like, oh, it's just taking my taxpayer money away, I don't need it. So, I mean, inherently, human beings are extremely selfish, extremely selfish. And once you give that kind of choice of a vote to, as a democracy, to the people, it allows us to be very, very selfish. And I love how, That's secretive. How is it that word that like not unionist? It's um like I'm writing something down and you can't see what I'm writing down.
Concealing?
Yeah, I guess conceal. Um, I don't know.
I'm bad with words.
No, it's okay. Um, anonymous, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, once you give the human being the anonymous vote to be as selfish as they want, a lot of them may be as selfish as they want and vote against helping everybody, which I mean, it's also their choice, you know. And I don't believe it's again inherently bad for people to be selfish. I mean, it's human nature, and it's just very interesting how our democracy is laid out, that we promote such, you know, uh, anonymous choice.
Right.
Yeah, and it can affect so much, especially regarding like local elections, kind of local, a lot of just like money stuff. Very much. Do you want to give your taxpayer money to help, for example, or like water stuff or school stuff or
Right.
something? Yeah, it's just like it's very interesting, I don't know if it will necessarily be more beneficial, less beneficial if we were to have a society in which, it wasn't as easily to be selfish, but I don't even know how that'd be possible.
I feel like a huge reason of like, cause like whenever babies are first born, like, if you like have like a nursery and there's like a bunch of like
Yeah.
newborns or whatever, if one baby cries, the rest of them are gonna cry with that baby.
Yeah.
Like we have like a natural empathy, but like as we grow up, it kind of like fades away.
Ooh, people get jaded.
Yeah.
Jade. There's a
But,
knee
like-
slap part.
Yeah, knee slap right there. I actually do a fire Bill Clinton impression. But anyways, it's just like I feel like okay, I'm trying not to turn into Alex Jones here. But it's like
Conspiracy.
I feel like some of the reason why that happens is like of our economic system. I feel like I'm gonna be like taken like in a van and like taken to a different country if I continue. But I'll continue very briefly because
Careful,
like
SpongeBob.
careful, SpongeBob. I don't know. It's just like as well as like our society are like it's kind of like everybody for themselves. Like you are that person. Like you're gonna like do this. Like it's all about you.
Yes.
And so because we're like told it's all about you, we kind of become selfish by extension. Because there have been other communities like take like the native or like indigenous people of Northern America, of like America, like in general, like their societies were like probably like one of the last like true like community like societies, where they were like worked together for like a common good and stuff like that.
That our thing is that we just prefer socialism over democracy, which I've noticed a lot with people my same age. They are steering away from democracy and really like, socialism as a whole. And I believe that, there's such a stigma against socialism. A lot of people relate it to,
Communists?
yeah, communism. And even so, like, I've also met quite a few people that believe in communism of my age. And I believe, of course, we're having this class and we're learning all about democracy. And in high school, if you don't take the AP, at least in our, school district, you take principles of democracy, learn all about democracy, all about our form of government in the United States. But I feel like there's, in, our world history classes, it's always just so down on every other form of government, which is such an interesting thing. I mean, we're just so patriotic and proud of democracy, maybe. But I feel like, when learning and understanding democracy, like democratic values as a whole, it kind of, I don't know, at least leads me to realize, like, not everything is best decided with democracy. And I don't know, I don't want this podcast to turn into just a socialism promotion. But I find it very interesting. I don't know, people that may be very, strong on democracy will say that maybe the media is, indoctrinating us to be pro socialism. But I believe it's a very important thing to try to think about. Like, why are there so many people in Generation Z and, of course, some millennials that are so pro socialism?
Right.
I believe a lot of older generations may try to say it's because you haven't been introduced into the real world yet, your money, you just, like, you don't understand how much of your taxes go other places, you wouldn't want more of that. I love capitalism. And that's another thing. Capitalism. This generation does not really like capitalism. I feel like a lot of older generations, especially at least my parents' generation, Generation X, is very, very pro-capitalism. My parents specifically aren't, but I feel like that generation,
Right.
very pro, and also older, because of how much society has changed, what's it? Like, of course, there's a lot of things in history that have happened that may make it a little bit more difficult for people to live that quote-unquote American dream with the money that they make. I don't know.
Because I feel like for most of history, if you were born like in like a lower class, you stayed there for your life, and your family did too.
Yeah.
And if you're born like in a higher class, you stayed there until like a revolt or something. And so like when you have like America and like capitalism and like you can make it, you can get thousands,
American
millions of
dream.
dollars. Like you can go from nothing to something. And so like I feel like the older generations, they still lived with that mindset. Like if I just pull myself up by the bootstraps, like I can go from like 0 to hero.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing like some of those people, they've already made it to the top.
Yeah.
But they don't want to leave it, and they don't want their families to leave it. And so they're kind of like trying to find a way to perpetuate that. And so we're seeing that, and we're like, they're making it so that we can't do that. And so we're like, wait, you can exploit this. There's a way to like get to the top and not let anybody else go.
Yeah.
And so it's like you start thinking about it, and you're like, is it really the best option? Like you have to start thinking about it critically.
To have such, and this is also a very controversial thing, might get us, driven away in a bus. I just think about, the people that control democracy in our country. These people aren't of, populist, population. They're very much, a very, very elite class,
Right.
And it makes, especially with times, the younger population, my generation, yours, very skeptical of democracy, because it's like, oh yeah, these people are saying that, I get a choice, and it'll help me, like if I vote for them, But in reality, it's just, oh no, I feel like a little. I have my tinfoil hat on right now. I don't know how open we should be in these podcasts. So, steering away from previous topics, let's remind ourselves of the kind of promotion topic that we have. So, to reread it, how can we recognize / appreciate and better understand democratic values such as accountability and transparency in our everyday lives? So I believe how to appreciate and better understand democracy is definitely just steering it away from, the big politics, overall topics, and kind of bringing it down to much broader, situations, just like democracy, in our everyday lives, like previously mentioned, just how we use democracy to decide where we want to eat,
Right.
I believe that's a great start, or to truly recognize and appreciate democracy as a whole,
Yeah.
is just using it, to try to help us with simple things, You don't necessarily need to agree with democracy as a whole, but rather, just understanding what it could help us out. I believe that if you ever try to like introduce, our population, say like, and have people try to appreciate democracy more as a whole, it can start all the way back in like kindergarten, just helping, like using democracy to help in the classroom, and I believe that gives, the next generation a lot of understanding of the system. And so whenever they learn about more complicated things with democracy, they are rather understanding and be like, oh, okay, I understand this because they're being transparent about this, and I
Right.
am truly like understanding what is going through in the process,
Yeah.
Do you have any final remarks?
I just wanted to end off by saying, like, if you take away anything from this, I guess it's just like, what's it called? I guess just be empathetic to your neighbor. That sounds like really like, oh, like a Bible quote, or like something that you find
Love
on
my
like
neighbor.
yeah. But it's like if you don't have empathy,
Mhm.
you're gonna end up making a worse world for everybody. So if anything, be selfish in the way of that you'll be nice to others, so it comes back to you.
Yeah, yes.
I don't know. I feel like even if everyone has that, like, or at least like if a few more people adopt that, like the world would become a much better place. Because it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like it's kind of like we only really think about ourselves a lot, or at least like some people. But it's just kind of like we got to be thinking about all of us
Yeah.
in order to build a better future.
Yeah, and maybe even that's how democracy was first made to be used in a sense, It was
Yeah.
made to help the people, So I think that's a very good way to end our session.
Yeah.
Our little our little episode of the Apocalicious podcast with the main host.
Jade.
And again, I'm the co-host Scout, and hope to talk to you all again. Yay!